Every significant creation starts with a significant event. For the welfare system, that event was the Great Depression. In the 1920s, life seemed fantastic as wartime economy shifted to peacetime economy. Surprisingly, the United States had actually become the richest country in the world at this time. Americans had saving accounts that were not insured and started buying heavily on credit. When the 1930s came about, however, citizens were reminded that the economy plays no favorites. Those who were in high debt were being called to pay the money back, and those who did have the money ran to the bank to withdraw it, only to find out that the bank had already given away all the money it had. With the stock market beginning to crash and high unemployment beginning to set in, many were on the verge of homelessness, and the economic stability that they once knew began to crumble. Droves of people turned to the government, asking them to do something. Thus, the welfare system was born. In 1935, Franklin Delano Roosevelt answered the cries for help by signing the Social Security Act, which gave many welfare programs to help the needy. For the past 80 years, however, welfare has definitely seen its ups and downs. But today, however, many of those who are paying the taxes to help fund welfare have begun to complain that they're paying too much. This has caused a great divide in whether to end welfare as we know it, or find ways to improve it. Because of the number of people who genuinely use welfare to get back on their feet, however, it would be in the best interests of everybody to find ways to improve the system. 4 possible ways to do this are drug testing for welfare applicants, a change of the system from tax-funded to donation-funded, stricter policies, and finally, a raise in the minimum wage. First, let's look at the implementation of drug testing for welfare applicants. The logic is simple. If we can catch those on welfare who are using the aid for drugs, we can reduce the costs of welfare and lighten the load on taxpayers. This seems like a good idea until one considers the following. The cost for each drug test is $30, and in 2011, Utah and Florida decided to give drug testing for welfare applicants a try. The results were miserable, as Utah spent $26,000 to catch only 9 drug users, and Florida was only able to save $98,400 out of a $178 million welfare program. This doesn't take into account the cost for each drug test. After seeing the results, Florida actually chose to abandon its drug testing policy. Although it has good intentions, if drug testing for welfare applicants were required in every state, the economic results would be catastrophic and we would be wasting a lot of money. The idea of a donation-funded welfare system will also end in disaster because there simply just won't be enough donated to keep the system running. The money to fund the system would run out, and unfortunately, we would even have more homelessness going around. Now that we know drug testing in a donation-funded welfare system won't work, let's look at some ideas that will. The first idea that would work is a stricter policy on how long able-bodied people can stay on welfare. Currently, our welfare system allows an unemployed able-bodied person to stay on welfare for 5 years. According to statistics, however, it takes someone only 10 months to find a job. This is why we should reduce that 5 years to 2 years, just to be on the safe side. Doing this would discourage the idea of purposely staying on welfare for an extended period of time, resulting in increased fairness and a lighter load on taxpayers. Now, here's another sure way to fix the welfare system, and that would be by raising the minimum wage. Many of those who work on minimum wage still have to rely on welfare because simply, the current minimum wage is not sufficient enough to help support a family or an individual. Supporting this opinion is the fact that today's minimum wage of $7.25 will be equivalent to the value of $10 in 1968. One reason we haven't raised the minimum wage yet is the fear of inflation. It would make sense. If minimum wage goes up by $1, everything in price would go up by $1 too. This is simply not the case, however, as statistics and expert economists say that a 10% increase in minimum wage will only cause a 0.01% increase in inflation. This would mean that if something were to cost $200 before a 10% minimum wage increase, it would cost $200.20 after the 10% minimum wage increase. Unfortunately, we can't raise the minimum wage that high, as it would negatively impact small businesses. So, to have the best balance, the ideal minimum wage would be $8.50. This would only cause a small amount of inflation and would impact small businesses only to a minimal extent. So, to sum it all up, stricter policies and a raise in the minimum wage are what will help improve the welfare system. Now, it's your turn to make a difference. You can do this by telling your friends about this data, or, better yet, writing to government officials. Your thoughts matter. Tell them what you think, whether it be by mailing them or racing over to them to have a conversation directly. Your opinions will help increase fairness in the welfare system and help current and future generations live in a more economically fair country. Welfare is great when it's run the way it's supposed to be, helping those who are unable to work survive and aiding the able-bodied unemployed find a job. I hope you enjoyed this video and have gained a better understanding of how to improve the welfare system.